Lunchroom. Informative, enlightening, provocative, engaging. The Lunchroom on RCI. Food for thought. The station that gives you, more lunch.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Lunchroom on Radio Caribbean International. It is Tuesday, the 10th of December, 2024, and this is program number 1300 of the Lunchroom. I'm your host, Calix George Jr. Now, in addition to 101.1 FM radio, you can also get us at our website, rcistlucia.com. You can stream us live there as well as download our previous shows in podcast form. And we're also up and running on Facebook Live, and you just have to search for the official page of Radio Caribbean International on Facebook. And please be sure to like and share that as well with your friends and family. Of course, the number to tell us what's on your plate today, it is 452-3046. Again, 452-3046. And you can also use our WhatsApp number. That is 724-0008. You could call in or you can message in on WhatsApp. And again, that number is 724-0008. Now, we want to send out some birthday greetings for today. First, to Acting Governor General, His Excellency Mr. Errol Charles. Happy birthday to you, sir. And we do hope that you're having a wonderful and blessed birthday celebration. We also want to send out some birthday greetings to Algeetha Richelieu. Happy birthday to you. And we do hope that you're having a fantastic birthday, as well as to Mr. Augustus Cadet. And we're hoping that you're having a fantastic and wonderful birthday as well. Now, some history looking back in time into the year 1520. The Protestant Reformation leader Martin Luther publicly burned a papal edict demanding that he recants his statements. In 1684, on this day, Isaac Newton's derivation of Kepler's law from his theory of gravity, and that was contained in the paper De Motu Corporum in Gyrum, on the motion of bodies in an orbit. That was read to the Royal Society by Edmund Halley. In 1799, on this day, the metric system was adopted for the first time in France. 1901, on this day, the first Nobel Peace Prizes were awarded, and the first recipients were Red Cross founder Jean-Henri Dunant and peace activist Frederick Passy. In the year 1936, Edward VIII signed his instrument of abdication, giving up the British throne to marry American divorcee Wallis Simpson. And in 1964, on this day, the Nobel Peace Prize was presented to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and that happened in the capital of Norway, Oslo. We now move on to our dish of the day. The daily dish is brought in the kind compliments of our good friends at Tiles Plus.
One tiles for your home, I see. Bathroom, kitchen, pantry. Need tiles for your balcony. Come down to Tiles Plus, satisfaction guarantee. Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus. Big tiles with unbeatable cost. Customer service, A+. This all kind of tiles. Come down to Tiles Plus. We also got gasway and vanity. Books, doors, you'll see. Come down to my nobody. We got the best tiles on island. Trust me. We are located Land Street in Castries, Bosses Grocery Lanes, and Flag Street in Viewfort. Telephone number 453-7939.
Serving now, the Daily Dish.
And welcome back to our program. Of course, we thank you for joining us this week. Apologies for yesterday. We weren't able to come on air. And we will be going up for another 2 days after this. We'll be ending, of course, on the eve of the national holiday, National Day. That will be the Thursday, the 12th of this month. That'll be our final show for the year 2024. Now, of course, a lot of people may be looking to, they may very well decide to travel. It's a very busy time for visiting friends and family. and even for friends and family coming in, of course. But of course, quite a number of St. Lucians have family over in the United Kingdom and sometimes are desirous of heading across there. And the United Kingdom has introduced what is known as an electronic travel authorization, or ETA. Now, that is actually something that many countries around the world have introduced. And I think as soon as somebody hears something like that, they begin to think of a visa or visa requirement. And it's a little different. ETA is, in fact, in the case of even St. Lucia, there is a travel authorization that is required, and you've got to go online and fill out the form and what have you. So it's not really in any way um, a difficult undertaking, and it's in fact something that many countries have introduced. I think Canada recently has done the same. But seems to be some misconceptions, perhaps whether deliberate or otherwise, to make this akin to being a visa requirement for entry into the United Kingdom, which is in fact it is not. And so as of now, St. Lucians still do not require a visa to enter the United Kingdom. Of course, uh, this is a country that we've had very long-standing relations with, going way back into the colonial era, and of course from which we gained our independence. And so, of course, those ties are very important in terms of our international standing, and of course the ability for individuals to be able to move around. The UK is in fact a pretty important gateway for persons who want to travel to other parts of the world. That may be challenging in the case of the United States, because St. Lucians do require a visa to head to the United States, and so that makes connections, connecting flights through the US challenging. And so many persons would then end up having to travel to the United Kingdom. And so, what is, as I mentioned, has been introduced is what is known as an electronic travel authorization. And just very quickly to share that bit of information coming through the High Commission for St. Lucia in London. It reads as follows. St. Lucia's High Commission in London has disclosed that electronic travel authorizations, ETAs, being introduced globally for visitors to the United Kingdom are no reflection on St. Lucians. A commission release noted that the system applies to individuals who do not currently need a visa for short stays or who do not already have a UK immigration status. Quote, what is clear is that this system is not a reflection on St. Lucians, the country, or the government. It will be applied globally and will cover citizens of countries such as the United States of America, Canada, Australia, the European Union, Vatican City, and all others who do not require a visa to enter the United Kingdom, the release stated. The complete statement is as follows. Last year, the UK announced that it would be joining a number of countries, including the USA, Canada, and the EU, in introducing what is called the Electronic Travel Authorization, ETA, a new travel arrangement for citizens of all countries which do not require visas to travel to the UK. The new regime commenced in November 2023 with the state of Qatar and was followed in the first quarter of 2024 by certain Gulf and Arab states. It is intended to be applied to Caribbean and other countries which do not require visas to travel to the UK in late 2024 and early 2025. In the case of St. Lucia, the effective date is January the 8th, 2025. Electronic bulletins issued by the UK authorities state as follows. Electronic travel authorizations, just give me 1 second. Electronic travel authorizations are being introduced, and I'm just trying to get this story back up. Something has just popped up here, and so we'll just get right back to it. Yes. being introduced worldwide for visitors to the UK who do not currently need a visa for short stays or who do not already have a UK immigration status. Eligible non-Europeans can now apply for an ETA and will need an ETA to travel from 8th January 2025. What is clear is that the system is not a reflection of St. Lucians. We read that section in the first part. Point 4, the only persons who are exempt from the requirement to obtain an ETA for travel to the UK are those who require a visa to enter the UK, those who have permission to live, work, or study in the UK, or British or Irish citizens. A number of countries already have ETA regimes in operation, including the USA and Canada. St. Lucians do not need an ETA to travel to the USA as they are required to obtain visas for travel to that country. However, they do require an ETA for travel to Canada and the EU, as they do not require visas for travel to those countries. And that piece coming from the St. Lucia Times. And of course, if we in fact did require a visa to the UK, we would not require an ETA. And so invariably, some of these matters are taken in the interest of national security, data collection, and as well, let's face it, some countries are also looking for new ways of raising revenue. And just as in the case of St. Lucia, where we have a airport departure tax and what have you, other countries do sometimes use the ETA as a revenue raising measure as well. So just thought I would want to share that with you, given that it seems to have been topical, where there was a suggestion out there that this is now a visa requirement. It's very, very different in that you've merely supposed to just go online, I suppose pay the fee or whatever it is, and then you get it within a matter of a day or whatever it is. So we'll see how that, of course, pans out. The reality is, yes, it is just another step that you do have to take in your travel arrangements. And some people may see it as a bit of a headache, but it is unfortunately the nature of travel post 9/11 and so many other things that are going on. Countries are introducing these different measures in that regard for their national interest, national security. Now, on the matter of the Kakabef, the base, there's been an ongoing discourse regarding this entire matter. And again, just to share what is coming out of a press conference last week, Thursday, it appears that there's some discussions going on, and so just this story again from the St. Lucia Times shares that outcome, and it reads as follows: at a Thursday press conference, General Manager of the St. Lucia Air and Seaports Authority, SLASPA, Darren Snack, disclosed that the authority has been in discussions with the St. Lucia Motorsports Association to establish common ground. This comes as drag race enthusiasts, disappointed with the lease of the former airbase to a fuel storage company, organize an online petition. Dubbed Save St. Lucia's Motorsports, the petition had, at the time of writing, amassed over 3,500 signatures. Snack intimated that in the short term, drag races will be held on the strip of runway, meaning that the planned December 13th race will continue as scheduled. So we have had discussions, very good discussions, as indicated by our stakeholders, and we are working with them in the short term to see how, through the Ministry of Youth and Sport, how certain activities could be facilitated, he said. Snack, however, emphasized the importance of the expansion of the Hiwanora International Airport over to the former airstrip. He said the current aeroplane parking facilities at the airport are insufficient to meet the country's incoming air traffic. Many times in St. Lucia, you have no parking. you cannot really grow the sector. We have wide-bodied aircraft, but we only have 6 parking positions. And as indicated, one of our competitors, Antigua, has over 10, for example, he said. He observed that the lack of parking has put a strain on airlines that have been circling mid-air waiting for space. You have to be circling in the air for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, because there's no parking on the ground, he said. Snack added that the former airstrip, currently used by motorsports enthusiasts for drag racing, increases the airport capacity by 1,500 feet, which would increase airplane parking availability. And that story coming from the St. Lucia Times. Now, for those of you who are familiar with the Hiwanora International Airport over the years, it actually originally started out with just 3 parking aprons, right? Well, sorry, 1 parking apron, which had 3 positions, 3 stands. So it could only really accommodate 3 planes. And that was what existed when the terminal was first built in the current location back in the 1970s. Later on, in the 1990s, there was an expansion of the terminal. It was more than doubled in size. And additionally, that happened back in 1993. And then additionally, another parking apron to the east of the existing terminal was constructed. And that was specifically to handle those wide body planes, the what under the ICAO, International Civil Aviation Organization categorization, are called Code E aircraft. And so we're speaking about what we would call jumbo jets, right? In the past, the 747, 787, 777 class type of aircraft. Those would usually have capacities over 300 passengers. And so there were 2 additional parking stands for planes built at that time. And then I think somewhere, I can't remember exactly, but in the 2000s, a third Code E stand was constructed in that same, as an expansion of this parking apron number 2. So certainly the point being made is a very important one. There are different ways of looking at the capacity of airports. And whereas there's been quite a lot of emphasis regarding the construction of a building to serve as a terminal, the reality is there are a number of different elements that go into a properly functioning airport. In fact, it all really starts with the runway, right? And ensuring that you have a runway that can, in fact, handle aircraft of a certain weight, of a certain wingspan, and so that those aircraft can land as well as take off with load and fuel safely. And so that, of course, is why the length of the runway as well as the width of the runway, these dimensions are pretty important to be able to determine whether those aircraft can travel, can get off the ground, and can land safely. Of course, beyond that, you also want to be able to know that they can do so in different weather conditions. And in as much as we don't have snowfall, and we don't have the issue of wings being frozen and those types of issues here, and we don't have to worry about de-icing of planes, but we do have rain, and sometimes that rain can in fact be pretty difficult, as well as very low cloud cover sometimes, which can make the approaches pretty challenging. And as of now, we in fact have to depend on when approaching or taking off, but especially when approaching Hiwanor International Airport, you're doing so by sight, right? Visibility matters. And that is in the absence of having sufficient navigational aids to be able to allow for doing landing using instruments, right? So there are in most well-developed airports, there will be various navigational systems, be it VORs, ILS, that assist with that operation of landing safely. That, of course, is not in place right now in the case of Hiwanor International Airport. Additionally, there are challenges and issues with our runway. Our runway was built back in the dimensions were effectively set back in the 70s, and standards change. And so, in fact, there's a need for adding shoulders on either side of the runway as well, so as to prevent if planes, in fact, do veer off a little bit, they don't end up on the grass and easily. And there is some more buffer to be able to allow for safe landings, especially if you've got challenging conditions. And so that is also another major intervention that is necessary in the case of the Hiwanor International Airport. Now, part of those aspects are being done through a World Bank funded Caribbean Air Transport project known as CATCOP, which is due to take on some of those aspects. But in terms of the development of parking aprons and development of terminal buildings, that actually is where this Hiwanor International Airport redevelopment project, which we've been hearing so much about, comes into play. And as I said, one of the means under which you can actually measure the capacity of an airport is effectively how many parking positions can you accommodate, right? Because you can have a very well developed terminal with lots of space on the inside, and you could be handling however many thousands of passengers per hour. But if you don't have the ability to land those planes and park them, you obviously are still going to be in a difficult situation. So currently, we in fact only have 6 parking stands at Hiwanor International Airport. And you will probably well appreciate, especially during this season, especially during the peak travel season, what tends to happen is that a lot of these flights are coming in within a very narrow time frame, a narrow window of time. And so effectively they bunch together, somewhere between 12 and 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And so within that maybe 3-hour window, you're seeing the majority of flights coming in during that period of time. And you just think about it, a plane might be on the ground for about an hour. And so effectively, if you have just 6 stands, you can see, and depending on the size of the planes, remember they're not all the same in terms of how many stands, what size of plane they can handle. You got 3 code E and 3 code C. Those are the smaller ones that you have, the 737 class of planes. And so how you manage that, of course, can be sometimes very challenging. And it is part of the problem that you have right now, and the worst thing that you really want is to be able to have, especially as an airline, is to have your plane having to circle around or to, in fact, just stay in the air. Not because you've got a lineup of planes, trying to land. That sometimes is one of the major issues of congestion in very large airports, very busy airports. You know, let's say London Heathrow or Hartfield in Atlanta or DFW, Dallas Fort Worth. These very, very busy airports have multiple runways because they have the number of the flow rate at which the number of air traffic movements per minute is tremendous, and so sometimes planes literally have to circle around, or they have to get into these approaches, take a line. Basically, they got to queue in to make a landing, and sometimes it that's what keeps them up in the air. It's another problem now once you have a plane to land and to get them off the runway, right? You now have to get them into a stand, and that is where we have a major congestion, major constraint, because we simply don't have enough parking stands. Now, it'll be very interesting to see what happens though, because even with the new proposed airport expansion, that is really only going to add another 6 new stands in the vicinity of the new terminal building. And so in the long term, that just puts you to 12. Now, you don't want to be probably peaking out at that number. You actually do need a fair bit more than that. The challenge now, however, is that the plan, or original master plan for the airport, actually envisaged that you would have had the benefit of the disused runway. But it is now a bit more complicated, because what has happened is that right across the southern part of that runway, you now have the foundation, the where the new terminal building is going to be built. So you effectively have kind of locked off the capacity of expansion, if in fact this is the direction that is being taken. So there is a lot to be considered within this situation regarding the future expansion of Hiwanora International Airport, because you do certainly want to be in a position where you have the ability, and this is the thing, when you're dealing with airports, you're not talking about the next 2 years or 5 years. You're talking 30 years, 40 years, 50 years into the future in terms of your projections and planning. And so it really does require you to be able to have that ability to expand as needed. So when you look at Barbados, for example, in that story you heard about the example of VC Bird in Antigua, with currently they can handle about 10 stands. In the case of Barbados, they've got right now 23 stands, right? And many of them are Code E stands. They can handle very, very large planes. So they've got lots and lots of capacity over at Grantley Adams International Airport. We, in the case of Hiwanora, are not so well off, certainly, especially if things remain the same. And so that's part of the major challenge there. No doubt about it. An exercise in master planning is very, very important in terms of airport development and seeing into the future, and to see how one can balance the interests of others within the state, as well as the long-term requirements regarding airport expansion. That's our dish of the day. When we come back, we'll take in our weather report and then head across to take in some calls.
This has been The Daily Dish.
One tiles for your home, I see. Bathroom, kitchen, pantry. Need tiles for your balcony. Come down to Tiles Plus, satisfaction guarantee. Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus. Big tiles with unbeatable cost. Customer service, A plus. Need all kind of tiles. Come down to Tiles Plus. We also got gasway and vanity. Books, doors, you'll see. Come down to mind nobody. We got the best tiles on island. Trust me. We are located Lands Road in Castries, Bosses Jubilee Lanes, and Flag Street in Beaufort. Telephone number 453-7939.
Michael, where you going with all that speed?
Girl, I hear Alan style have a big Christmas sale, up to 50% off on all kind of tiles. Wall tiles, hexagon, subway, mosaics, and wood look tiles like you will see on HGTV.
You serious? I see they have a lot of new products too, like vinyl flooring, wall panels, ceiling tiles, even travertine to make your pool look top notch. That on sale too?
Yes, girl, it's everything store wide. I see they have got cleaners and sealers too. Tell me, BSL, I need those for sure.
Girl, that's not a biggie, but we heading to Island Style right now.
Visit Island Style Talent Bath now in Castries, Rodney Bay, and Viewfort. Find us on social media or call 450-452 or 453-TILE. Don't miss out on this incredible Christmas sale. This is Radio Caribbean International. It's now time for the weather news.
And that's of course to the 1.1 is on time for your weather report as of 12 noon today, presented by Island Style Talent Bath. The forecast for St. Lucia Valley for the next 24 hours, winds will be blowing from between the east and northeast near the 60 miles per hour or 26 kilometers per hour. The weather fair to occasionally cloudy skies with a few scattered showers. The forecast for the Los Angeles fair to occasionally cloudy skies with widely scattered showers. And the weather summary: moderate easterly winds will continue across the Eastern Caribbean region during the next few days. Patches of low-level clouds drifting along the wind flow will cause occasionally cloudy periods with widely scattered showers over the Los Angeles during the next 24 hours. And this was your weather report as of 12 today, presented by Island Style Talent Bath.
This has been RCI's Weather News. For more information, call the Weather Hotline at 454-3452. RCI 101 number 1.
Michael, where you going with all that speed?
Girl, I hear Alan style have a big Christmas sale, up to 50% off on all kind of tiles. Wall tiles, hexagon, subway, mosaics, and wood look tiles like you will see on HGTV.
You serious? I see they have a lot of new products too, like vinyl flooring, wall panels, ceiling tiles, even travertine to make your pool look top notch. That on sale too?
Yes, girl, it's everything store wide. I see they have got cleaners and sealers too. Tell me, BSL, I need those for sure.
Girl, that's not a biggie, but we heading to Island Style right now.
Visit Island Style Talent Bath now in Castries, Rodney Bay, and Viewfort. Find us on social media or call 450-452 or 453-TILE. Don't miss out on this incredible Christmas sale.
And welcome back to our program here at Radio Caribbean International. It's the lunchroom. And of course, if you want to call and tell us what's on your plate today, the number to do so is 452-3046. Again, 452-3046. Early on today, there was the opening of the National Eye Clinic. And that is a component of the new polyclinic for Castries. It's been dubbed the Dr. Betty Wells Polyclinic, or the Wells Polyclinic. And from my understanding, Dr. Betty Wells was a long-standing doctor serving in Castries. I think she was originally from Scotland, and so that's the individual under which the structure is being dubbed and or christened, if you like. Of course, that is due to have other components opening up. According to the Ministry of Health, they are hoping to have the primary care services opening from December the 16th. So the National Eye Clinic is open as of today. From next week, Monday, the primary care services would be opening up. And then I think by next year, they would then be moving in the urgent care unit as well. Let's, at this point, of course, take in some calls. Good afternoon. Welcome to the lunchroom.
Good
And what is
afternoon,
on your
Mr.
plate
George.
today?
Yeah. Talking about the airport and talking about the Kakabef race.
Yes.
I don't know why St. Lucia always lasts. And I always tell you that St. Lucia always lasts. You think they're asking people what they think. And some of them put in race, 11 dead horse race before the development of an airport.
Well,
Yes,
I think
because that's what I can see some of them saying, oh, it's better than the extension of the airport. Everywhere, look at Antigua. Antigua could take 3 planes, 6 planes, 7 planes, and we taking free. And all the land around the airport can develop in boutiques, in other things. That is a big development for St. Lucia.
That is the funny thing, though, caller, because as of now, based on the plans, the orientation that was developed during the Chasney administration, originally the terminal was supposed to have been built to the north of the existing terminal, and the thinking was that you would then have been able to expand the parking apron north, right?
Yeah.
To take in more planes within the immediate terminal, the new terminal.
Yeah.
So that originally, that master plan would have allowed you to, I think, have a total of 12 positions, right? Within that space. But what has happened is that again, you heard the story. Mr. Chasney said he was in a helicopter with Theo, and they looked down and they said, "Oh, this is the perfect place for the terminal." And that perfect place place the terminal to the west now of the existing terminal. Well, to the northwest. So what I did, if I just might finish, caller, is that it placed it literally on the disused runway, right?
Yeah.
On the southern side, and not just on the southern side of the disused runway. So effectively, there's no provision from what I've seen to utilize the rest of the disused runway for parking of planes. That's not so. All the airside parking apron is going to be south of that, right? So between the terminal and the runway.
Yeah.
And so there's not really going to be that option to utilize the runway, the disused runway, the old runway, the Kakabef, we call it, for that purpose. So it's a little bit dicey, because that location of the terminal has really, really hampered that long-term expansion of the airside at Hewanor International Airport.
Yeah.
So it's I'm not sure how SLASPA is viewing this, but from what I can see, it's not really it's actually, it's almost as if we've kind of done away with the rest of that runway. But I would also say, though, even in the original plan, which was the 2015 master plan that had been done by SLASPA through the IFC and a Spanish company, even with that expansion, I mean, that old runway is a pretty long runway. I mean, it's 5,000 feet. And, it was still leaving nearly 3,000 feet, right, on the north side of it, unused, right?
Yeah.
So it would have still allowed for maybe some kind of recreational use, if you like, with that arrangement.
They could have put the drag racing.
Yes, exactly. So in fact, because what happens, the drag racing starts on the northern end, right?
Yeah.
The northern end of that runway, and they go down. So, but where the current fuel farm is being proposed is almost midway right on. In fact, it's further north than south of along that stretch, that runway, and that's where the problem lies.
But Chasney self said they find a place in Dennery. They already purchased, or they are about to purchase a place in Dennery where they could put the drag race and put these donkey race.
The area, well, I don't know what donkeys called. I think it was just for the cars. But the area that they're talking about is in the vicinity of Fordor, right? On the north side of the Mabuya River, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that area is partly agricultural land, Dennery Farm Co., and partly effectively what you would say as mang, right? Mangrove.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very waterlogged, and it would be a pretty expensive undertaking, as well as I don't know in terms of the environment there too. I'm not sure necessarily that is a very good location for such a facility.
But the thing, I look at Antigua, I think St. Lucia have more than twice the size of Antigua, isn't it?
In terms of land area, yes.
Yeah.
About that, yes.
Yeah. And why Antigua could have a big airport, so bigger than us, and they developing this and this. And when it comes to do something in St. Lucia, it always have a halekase. We never go and do something straight. We're doing that, and no matter what people say, that's what we're doing. That's the interest of this country. That's developing the country. We're developing the country, and that's all we want to know.
Well, I would probably even say that Antigua has perhaps always been a little bit more serious in terms of the airport development than St. Lucia. Partly because Leeward Island Air Transport, LIAT, has been headquartered in Antigua, and they've always served as a hub for the Leeward Islands, connections to St. Kitts, to Montserrat, to
but
St. Martin and Anguilla.
Have their own international airport.
Sorry?
And they're working on Dominica now, and I bet you by the time they finish, they're probably ahead of us. We probably have a mediocre. We have to do things and we don't go back to it. Have big airports. There is aircraft we never see, like Aer Lingus from John F. Kennedy to Dublin or Shannon. Mm-hmm. They are so big that the other Aer Lingus pick up all the thing and they'll take it to Gatwick Airport. All the passengers from Scotland, Wales, and they'll take it, and you'll find it's upstairs, downstairs. Those planes, we never see them, and we have to build airport for the future.
Well, at one point there was a lot of talk. There was a lot of talk about accommodating the A380s, right? The Airbus A380s, which is what you're talking about, the double-decker sort of.
They're double-deckers.
Right? But the reality is, though, caller, that even that model, the A380 model, is under a lot of question. I mean, they've stopped production of it. A lot of airlines which were looking at it as the future have decided not to, because yes, you have a lot of capacity in them, but the airlines are actually opting to look more at the maybe the 787s, the 777s instead. Those types of airlines, those aircraft, sorry, the A380s. The idea was that you would have had a lot of hub and spoke arrangements, right? So they would be going into major international hubs, doing these long hauls, London, Hong Kong, London, Singapore, that kind of stuff. Those London, Dubai, and then you would connect. But the patterns that we are seeing as well is that people are actually wanting a lot more point-to-point connections. Not to say that hubs are not going to be important. Yes, you're still going to need them, but more direct into some of these markets. In fact, You mentioned Dominica, and they've been
Dominica.
they've been
they're building
benefiting,
now.
even though they don't have the new international airport at Wesley completed as yet. They've benefited from some smaller planes, right? Seating about 100,
carry a
150
lot
people,
of people to
100, 150
Barbados, and
people,
from
and
Barbados
some of the
they
airlines
take it
like
to
American have
Dominica.
taken those on, the C-100s, I think, or C-200s, and they've taken on those aircraft that can do the short runways. They can land on shorter runways, and that allows for Dominica right now to have direct flights to Miami, and I think they're also getting one
St. Vincent in
to Atlanta soon, I think.
The hub St. Vincent used to use.
Well, yeah, I mean, those are very.
They use St. Lucia sometimes.
So no, what I'm saying is that you actually have some of these smaller jets. In other words, they're smaller jets.
Small jet,
right, that you can actually take. So that is helping islands, smaller airports to be able to do that kind of arrangement. So we have to be thinking about a lot of that, in terms of even, but one of the major challenges that we have as a country in terms of our airlift and arrangements is we're running two airports, right? And you have a small country like ours trying to manage two airports has its disadvantages.
But if Chastney had his way, he would have closed down John F. Charles Airport.
I think he said no. I think he suggested not to close it down. He's been one of those advocating to keep it open. I think it's an inevitability that it'll have to be closed though, in the long run. So we'll have to see how that works out.
So how that work out with the horse racing, it will take place?
Well, according to what we are being told, I think it seems as if the certainly at least for the next two events that they have planned.
Yeah.
I think for the National Day, this coming Friday, as well as Independence, it seems as if they're going to be going ahead.
Have a lot of wasteland, and all they have to do is to find a place for them to keep the horse racing and leave the airport side for development, for investment, to invest in St. Lucia. Okay, Good afternoon, Mr. John.
Okay, all right then, caller. Thanks for that.
Good.
Now, of course, we may have wasteland, but the question is, who does it belong to, and is it actually suitable for those types of activities? They, in fact, require a lot of flat land, and that's part of the challenge that we have, as opposed to, say, a place like Antigua, where there's lots of relatively flat land available, and they have been able to construct their own dedicated drag race facility near the new Viv Richards Stadium. In fact, I think it's just east of there. In fact, Antigua has, interesting enough, has had a pretty interesting culture of races. They also have another course, I think, up in Crabs, it's called, which is more of a rally type course. Let's take another call at this time. Good afternoon. Welcome to the lunchroom. What's on your plate today?
Good afternoon.
Hi, caller. How are you doing?
Fine, thank you. What is the name of the new polyclinic? Is it Dr. Winston Paris or Dr. Betty Wells?
Right. So what it is that there's the Victoria Hospital, right? The whole facility has been renamed, or is going to be renamed, the Dr. Winston Paris Medical Complex.
Okay.
And within that medical complex, there are going to be about 3 distinct levels of service. So there's going to be a secondary care hospital, right? A secondary care facility, which is, I think, a 30-bed facility, which is really handling, I wouldn't say the overflow from Millennium Heights from OKEU,
Okay.
But for patients who may be long stay, you have some patients who don't have family and who, they can't take care of themselves. So that kind of facility is going to be available at the Dr. Winston Paris Medical Complex. But then there's a polyclinic aspect of it, right? So which is replacing the Castries Health Center. So that is going to be called the Dr. Betty Wells Polyclinic.
Polyclinic, and there's a lot of, and within there's different services.
And then in addition to that, there's also going to be an urgent care center. So the urgent care center is, I suppose, somewhat akin to almost like an A&E, but like an emergency
room. So where the old emergency ward used to be before.
So yes. So my understanding is that where the accident emergency ward was before, they're redoing that, completely rehabilitating that space to serve as the new urgent care center.
Now, I heard there was something in the news concerning the rehabilitation in the OKU complex. I mean, where they rehab people for drugs, alcohol, and things. But actually, when they first spoke about that complex, the polyclinic, to me, I thought I heard that they said because there were not many people in the rehab that at least that service would be in that same thing there. I swear that's what I heard.
I know that there was, you had Turning Point Rehabilitation Center.
Yes, Turning Point.
And Turning Point is now part of the same mental wellness complex. Right? So Turning Point, I think, has a dedicated building within that complex.
Yeah.
That's where they're located, as far as I understand it.
Yeah, I know it's there, but to me, I swear I heard when there was the polyclinic, that service would also be put in that same complex there.
There's some outpatient. There's some outpatient mental wellness services, I think, that were mentioned from the team from the Ministry of Health did mention that they're going to be providing some of those services, but I'm not sure. So those would not be inpatient services. These would not be places that people would actually be admitted to.
All right.
Right? They would be just services that they'd be providing, probably checkups, medication, those types of support services. But those are outpatient services for mental wellness.
So full services starts in January.
Well, the National Eye Clinic, right, I think has opened today. And
but I think they started last week because...
Oh, sorry, that's true. They already opened, but then they're continuing opening, really, yes. And then I think the primary care, so the polyclinic services, as far as I understood them saying, would start opening next week, Monday, the 16th. And then I think by the middle of next year, June or so, I think the urgent care center is supposed to be open. So that's the timelines that they've provided. And I think from what I was hearing as well from the ceremony this morning, there's also going to be some expansion work on the what is now the DDA, Dr. Martin DDA Polyclinic, which is the Grosley Polyclinic.
So has it been officially named Dr. Martin DDA? Has they given it official ceremony?
Well, I guess there'll be a naming ceremony maybe after the completion of the expansion there.
Okay.
But as far as I know, no, I don't think there's been a ceremony of sorts.
But they did not also have an official for Dr. Winston Paris either?
No, that has not also happened. I think that the intention is to have it in June of next year. Once the urgent care facility is completed, then they would actually have that naming ceremony.
And then I don't know, actually, since you were talking about the airport, I saw there was a St. Lucian pilot.
Yes, Mr. Tevin Velasco. That's correct. Yes, and congratulations to him on his achievement.
And it's good to hear because I heard that he actually came from Boca Maybe after he graduated from Bukas, he went over the States. I know sometimes we place emphasis on school and thing, but I find it was quite good, that he had become, one of those. It's American Airlines or JetBlue? Which one?
American Airlines.
Okay, that's good to hear. That's good to hear. But then when all of this work on that airport is going to start.
Well, you see, we think of airports, of course, as a place just for passengers, but it's good that you raise that point because, you have a lot of general aviation that is also supposed to be supported by those airports, right? You may have flight schools, you may have a lot of, you have maintenance, aircraft maintenance, you have air cargo. So there are a lot of things that have to be thought into the overall development of Hiwanori International
So it will be
Airport.
expanded, especially just when you arrive, like for the departure, or when you come in, just a car just drop you in. So will they expand on that? Will that be even larger than it is right now?
You talking about the drop off at the terminal?
Yes, the terminal, yes. Will they be expanding on that?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, the proposal, as we understand it right now, is for a new terminal. The new terminal will be a larger facility in terms of the amount of floor space that you have. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure that the actual drop-off area is actually going to be much larger than what currently exists, to be honest.
But then there was this plan that was continuously shown on NTN where a child was explaining every aspect of that new plan.
Yes.
Very, very fancy. Will all of these things still take place?
Well, you see, that's the thing, Caller. You have to, in all of these things, you have to place the emphasis on the important things, right? And sometimes fancy is not necessarily always. You want to ensure that there's functionality, right? Function before form. You want to ensure that it can actually function properly. That it as you rightfully are asking, will we have additional space in terms of curbside pull-ups and to drop off individuals? Do you have enough? Do you have insufficient parking space, car parking space for a facility of that size? A lot of those very good questions, and I think rightfully so. Sometimes we hear about these projects and we see the renderings, and I guess it's left up to the authorities, the planning authorities, to ensure that in fact the details are actually up to spec, right? That you actually do have sufficient parking, that it is properly.
Yeah, but so far, how much work has been done?
Work in terms of the terminal?
Yes.
So the foundation, again, the way that project was being rolled out, they had divided it up into different packages. And there was a foundation package, which involved a tremendous amount of piling. So that involved, I think, nearly over 3,000 piles to be able to support the structure. And so that has been completed for some time. And then also there's work ongoing on the air traffic control tower. So there's a new, well, I shouldn't say ongoing because I think the contract, in fact, has been terminated. But there was work ongoing up until not too long ago.
So can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Can I ask you a question? Was the master plan in 2015 changed?
Yes.
Russia said when a brand new master plan was done from 2000.
So the master plan in 2015 has been significantly changed, and you can pretty much say that what is being done right now is very, very different from the approved master plan. Yes, because the location of the terminal is nowhere near where it was supposed to, was built nowhere near it was really expected to be built.
So then why can't, if someone comes into power, you find a master plan, at the end of the day, you coming in, why can't it be possible that the master plan that is already there just remain and continue as it is? If you need to do any other thing.
Well, you can, I mean, in fairness, you could review it, right? And you could perhaps make certain alterations, but you need to know that the alterations that you're making actually work out, right?
Yeah.
Because master plans are prepared based on projections and forecasts, right? You want to look into the future 30 years from now, and based on your economic activity, on the country's ambitions in terms of tourism arrivals, economic development, you're going to project a certain number of people coming in on a certain number of aircraft, coming in on a certain number of days.
And all that thought of in the
so you've
plan.
got, right. So there's a very, very much involved process to determine what is the necessary capacity that you require, in year 10, in year 20, in year 30, right? That's what the master plan does. And then it will say, how can we most efficiently and effectively meet those projections, right? In terms of the quality of experience that an individual is going to get coming in from the airport, and ensuring that, of course, those things can be all done in a safe environment. So all of those things have to be looked at: the environmental impact, the health and safety issues, the capacity issues of the various. They have to look at the capacity of the runway. They have to look at the capacity of the parking aprons, the capacity of the fuel farms, the capacity of your cargo. All of these things have to be looked at, and then you design to best fit, right, and achieve those requirements, right? They will even look at there's a term called level of service, right, which is effectively saying how quickly or how much time would you expect to stay on a line, right, queuing up, right? Because there's certain levels that you go to most airports around the world right now. Very busy ones. You land in Miami International, you might be in the line for an hour and a half, right? Is that adequate? Well, that's where the issue is, right? So how long do you want somebody to stay in a line reasonably? Is it half an hour? Is it an hour? So those things are all worked into the capacity of the airport and the various functions to be able to now design.
But
so if
do they
you
listen? But do people do the government sometimes listen to the engineers that have the know-how on what to do? Do they actually listen to an example pulling Slasper?
Well, that's part of the problem in a lot of instances, Caller.
They don't listen.
That's part of the problem. Sometimes, like I said, you might just take a trip in a helicopter and you decide, oh, that's where I'm going to put the airport terminal, right? Without
so
actually looking
that
at
idea from Joachim, and that's it.
Well, there you go, Caller.
Then, so what's the sense of having engineers and all those technocrats to tell you what to do?
Well, I suppose to try to make it happen, right? But that's part of the problem. So you have to look at those things in a holistic way, especially when you're looking at major infrastructure like airports. So it is a something that I think we still have to look at, because we may not feel it today, you may not feel it tomorrow, you might not feel it in 5 years, but then it might be the curse that you've left behind for the next generation, when it's their problem now to try to figure out what to do. Yeah. So all right, Caller.
All right.
Take care. Have a good one.
All right.
And I think that is perhaps the last call we're going to take, because we're already way over time here at the lunchroom. Of course, we do hope that you can join us again tomorrow for another program, and we'll be back. So enjoy the day and have a good one.